I bet Dana will stop saying we're looking for young and hungry fighters.
Wow.
Tyler Kasak, 141, losing very first round, losing just a super close match, and then firing off 7 in a row.
7 straight. Start with gyms, and that's like on a consistent basis, and then once a year or once every couple of years, you do a World Cup.
You guys have both been back in the locker room. Imagine if it's like your team. That energy is different. BETR already has the craziest multipliers in the industry, and we're taking it up a level. We're taking it up. It's going to be insane. 1,000x multipliers. You heard me right. 1,000x. All you got to do is add 4 boosts to your lineup. Not even that many. 4 boosts to your lineup, and get ready to win big. BETR has the UFC, so you can already lock me in there as a boost. We got the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, the MLB. They're all live in the app. Go download BETR. Use code BO. 1,000x. Win you some money.
Big weekend for Penn State wrestling. Probably almost the biggest.
I would say.
It's up there.
Definitely.
4 national champions, 6 guys in the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, the second and third place scores combined still lost.
Yeah.
That's
My
insane.
favorite stat was if you took our team, divided it in half, they would have both tied for first.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane.
That's
I know.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, they crushed it.
Like we could take, like 5 guys on each and then.
It really was like they're competing against like their own stats.
Yeah, it's so weird, right? Yeah, it's, we had a few years like that. Like I guess our senior year, it wasn't really competitive at all. But that was like ridiculous.
Yeah. They showed out.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you you see my tweet?
Yeah. We were at Knowles.
This guy, bro. What is he thinking, dude?
We're at
First
Knowles.
off, what is he thinking, bro? That was like the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say in commentary. It was ridiculous.
Well, no, yeah, we brought it up in the moment. We're like, that's kind of weird to say, especially for someone that's in your weight class. Like even if we're thinking it, like one, it's not really something like commentators should say. Two, it's not really something that you should say about someone that's in your weight class that you're probably competing against in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and he brought it up so many times. I'm like, relax, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you compete against me. I'm going for that leg. I'm like, all right, it's not about you.
Yeah.
You freaking narcissist. Relax, dude.
let's give this some context. So you're talking about Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah. So
like,
Jordan Burroughs,
commenting on-
when Carter was wrestling, Carter Srirachi, 4-time NCAA champion, had an unfortunate injury a few weeks ago. Kind of battled through adversity, wins a national championship, and the whole time all Jordan Burroughs is commentated about is how he's like the guy that he's wrestling should go for his knee. And then Carter, after the match, said he's going to wrestle the Olympic trials. That'll be next for him. And then Burroughs is like, oh, well, when we wrestle, like, you best believe like I'm coming for that knee. I'm paraphrasing, but he just basically implied he was going to like target Carter's knee. And I'm like, bro, you're a freaking paid commentator here. It's not about you. It's about why are you making it about yourself? Like you don't have to nobody you don't have to bring, the fact that you're going to compete against this guy up at all. It's his moment. He's a college kid too. Like you're a freaking 30-plus-year-old grown man getting paid to commentate as a professional, and now you're talking about targeting a guy's injury. I just thought that was classless. And then it also just sets a bad example. What happens when a 12-year-old sees that or hears that and is like, oh, well, if my opponent's ever hurt, like I need to go after their injuries. Like that's just not a good look. So there's so many levels to it where I felt like there's just no place for that in sports in general. Like you shouldn't be talking about stuff like that. Even if you're thinking that way, which is sad. Like I think that obviously everybody's competitive and wants to win, but like going after a guy's injury is just, I don't know. I don't like that. And then he basically replied, tried to compare it to fighting, saying you punch people in the face for a living. I'm like, yeah, I know, it's fighting. It's not wrestling. The point of wrestling isn't to injure each other. It's to score points and to control the match. The point of fighting is to injure each other. Like I'm trying to knock a guy out. I'm trying to choke him out. I'm trying to manipulate his joints, right? Like that's the point of my sport. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just thought the dude sounded like an idiot. So is what it is. But I felt like I had to call him out because one, that's my teammate, and two, I just felt like there's, everything I mentioned before, it applies. So Just dumb stuff, man. Dumb stuff.
It's very interesting. I what you were saying is really true because you don't really hear any commentators like say stuff like that. Like sometimes now and again it slips, but not like
I wouldn't even say it slips. It's like, this is the thing. If Jordan Burroughs was just a commentator and he was just commentating on a guy's injury and saying, hypothetically, like it would make sense for the opponent to go after that leg. Like this is the national finals. It's like, that's one thing. It's a completely another thing to bring it up multiple times and then say you're going to do it when the reality of them competing is very likely. And I just felt like, and again, it's not his moment. So why take a guy's 4th national title and, one of the biggest moments in his career and make it about yourself? To me, it just shows his character. And the thing that bothers me is that nobody sees this. He always tries to act like an ambassador of the sport and, congratulations to Penn State. I'm so proud of you guys and what you're doing. Bro, you're a freaking fraud. You just want to make it about yourself. So relax. Don't come at our guys. And don't act friendly to me when I see you, because I guarantee you it'll try to see me and be like, what's up, Bo? Dap it up. Be cool. I'm like, bro, no, we're not cool. Like, I don't really care to be cool with you. So, is what it is. That type of stuff, I feel like, I don't know. That's just my personality. Like, I'm going to say something. So, had it not been one of our guys, I probably wouldn't have. I'll say this. Had it not been one of our guys, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have said anything, but, like, don't come at our guys. So, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. Don't be fake.
moving forward. I don't know where to go off of that. But yeah, Carter won his 4th national title, which is insane. So did Aaron. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone else that like has that same chance, you think, in the next coming class as far as like Penn State or just wrestling overall?
To be a 4-time NCAA champion, it's so hard. There's only been, I think, 6 or 7 ever. And I think that you never really can sit here and say, like, this guy's got a good chance to do it, because there's so many things that factor in, how much do these kids love competing? Is their health going to hold up? Like, there's a lot of good kids that want to win that make up, a weight class. And so I don't know that it's even like a productive conversation. With that being said, though, if it's going to happen, it'll probably be somebody at Penn State. Yeah. I don't think there was a freshman that won this year.
No, Mitchell was
the closest.
Yeah, that whole weight class was crazy. Keegan was about to win his 3rd potentially.
Yeah.
He would have been close. David Carr's a good dude. He freaking pulled it off.
Yeah.
Crazy finals match.
Yeah, 165 was, I think, for sure the most stacked weight this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, all the weights are good, but between, O'Toole at Carr, obviously Mitchell, Hamady.
He didn't even All-American.
All-American. Yeah, insane. So, there's so many good guys at that weight, and obviously, David Carr is a super nice kid, super talented guy, but I was definitely sad for Mitchell.
Yeah.
I felt like he had that.
And he was the same wrestler in that match as any other match. Like, he was having fun, laughing.
Yeah.
Like, he wrestled his heart out, so he's got to be proud of himself. It's just tough match.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, the guy who wins is the guy that scores most points, and I think, Mitchell maybe made a mental error at the end. Mm-hmm. It was a crazy match. Obviously, all the stalling calls, takedowns, stuff flying, like, both guys going after it, 6.5 minutes in or whatever, and you're probably a little fatigued. So it's hard to like understand where your mind's at that point.
Yeah.
But, I think that just a loss, and he's still the same guy, still the same wrestler, and I don't even want to say like he'll come back from it, because there's nothing different, right?
Yeah.
Like he did his thing this whole year. I would just say that like nobody wants to wrestle that dude.
Yeah.
Like he built his reputation this year as just like a freaking menace.
For sure.
And I'm excited. I'll watch anytime he's going to compete. He reminds me a lot of Nolf, that attacking style and just going after it, go in your face, but also like not really like a grinder bruiser, but like still slick. That's I love that combination of super high pace, but also very, you know, slick and technical. So, I mean, he's a guy that's going to have a lot of success for years to come.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch Braden Davis over the next few years. He's savage.
Yeah, Braden, you know, I don't think 125 didn't have his best tournament, but was right there with the, you know, he was there with the national champ and another All-American, and he was pretty much 10 seconds away from like basically being where Figueroa was, who ended up winning, right? Like he loses on a few seconds of riding time, and so he's right there with those guys. And yeah, he's a guy, you know, true freshman, young dude, and got a lot of room to grow and get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, K-Sac, you know.
K-Sac's
Tyler K-Sac, 141, losing very first round. Tough matchup for a first round of, you know, getting a returning All-American, and losing just a super close match, and then firing off 7 in a row.
7 straight. That's probably the next most impressive thing after national title.
I mean, I would say that it's much harder to do that
for sure
than to win a national
7
title.
Straight after and to just stay mentally in it.
Yeah,
from the first match.
Yeah, and a couple of the guys that he had to wrestle on the backside were like guys that got upset. So it wasn't like he was just beating guys he was supposed to beat. Like he beat the number 1 seed 12-1 or something like that, in the consolation semis. So like he was beating pretty like the best guys, right?
Yeah.
And it says a lot about who he is, right? Like as a person, it takes a lot, and it's really, you know, I think when you lose that match, you're not really doing it for yourself. Like you're kind of doing it for the team, and you know, of course, you want the best results, but you know, it's kind of like it would be easy to feel like your dreams have been crushed.
Yeah, you see it. I mean, you saw it a lot. Yeah.
You see it all the time. Guys get upset, and then they lose their next match. They just drop off. You know, they don't want it that bad. So you know, that I think that says a lot as a true freshman, young kid to be able to do that. He's definitely got a bright future.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool how at the end, like obviously like a couple guys from Penn State like didn't achieve the goal that they wanted to achieve, but like everyone at the end, like the team title mattered. It seemed more than some of the national, like winning the national finals. Like everyone had the team aspect, like even the guys that didn't achieve their goals, they were all smiling, like, which I thought personally was the coolest thing from that tournament, especially like Carter raising Trainer Dan's hand at the end, things like that. Like that goes to show like it's not just like these guys aren't an individualist mindset. They're really focused on, you know, that team. And at Penn State, like, would you guys say that it's more of like a family environment in the wrestling room?
Yeah, I think it's just a higher perspective on everything, and the focus is always on being good people, having a good relationship with God, having a good relationship with each other, and that's like what's preached day in and day out by Coach Kale and the other coaches. So if that's what we're talking about and surrounded by day in and day out, you're not going to get to the national tournament and then become like completely selfish. And so I also think that for the most part, the guys performed to the best of their ability. Even guys that lost in the finals, like Mitch and Bo, they both wrestled to the best of their ability, just last second calls and didn't go their way. But like, you got to be proud of that. Obviously it stinks, but no one really like, had a huge shocker in performance. And so you can be proud of that. And that's something that Penn State always has everybody ready to go. And so that adds to being able to just be at peace and be happy with showing up and doing your best and being proud of each other.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. You know, I think that something that is really special is that higher perspective, as Tony said, and you just can't fake that, right? Like you can kind of try to add in certain things that Penn State does. Like these other teams, you know, they try to copy us on a lot of things, but you can't really copy or fake that mentality and that culture. And I feel like that's such a big part of what sets the team and the guys apart is the mental understanding of like why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, you heard every single guy after their national finals win give glory to God and credit God with their opportunities, talk about gratitude, things like that. And you just can't really fake that. And I feel like does God really like care who wins or loses the national title that much? No, but I think that when you have that higher perspective and that strong faith, then everything else in your life starts to align, and it starts and you start to, I guess, have a better understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, and you're just more free overall, and you can be free when you compete. So, most, I think, people are maybe searching for that, but they probably feel like they want that win so bad, it maybe clouds their judgment or their character, or they could be doing things for the wrong reasons or whatever it is. But I think everybody on the team, again, has that higher perspective and just loves what they do and has that foundation of gratitude.
Yeah. Another point, last thing on the wrestling tournament, is a tweet from Micah Parsons saying that Penn State wrestling is like the greatest dynasty in all of sports. And I don't think that anyone could really rebuttal against that statement because of the dominance in the past 20 years. I mean, Cale has, I looked it up. He's had 38 national champions in 13 years, and he's also won 11 out of the last 13. Like,
yeah,
that puts Tom Brady's Super Bowl status to shame.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. It's pretty insane to see what Coach Cale's done. And another cool tweet that I saw was like, who would be, if you had to put the Mount Rushmore of Penn State wrestling, like who would they be? And I was like, man, you just put Coach Cale 4 times, to be honest, because he's the one that started it off. He's like, the reason that, again, like every single guy has their own part in the program and the history of it and what I've been able to do, but he's like the guy that's brought it all together. And I think that every single person that's been part of the program would acknowledge that. Like, he's just a really special guy. And, I think very good example for anybody, for myself, for younger people, for adults that are looking to, just get the most out of themselves and really lift people up. Like, just a really good role model, very humble, like just like I said, the guy that got it all kicked off. So you can't credit him enough. And absolutely, like, there's not a dynasty in sports that can compare to that. Just this, you start pulling up some of the statistics, and it's like, it's mind-boggling.
It blows everybody out of the water. There's no one close.
Yeah. And I think that what's interesting too is wrestling is so competitive. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think the sport's improving, getting better and better and better. And while it doesn't get the mainstream views like football or basketball or baseball, man, it's so competitive. It's so hard. You can't really find yourself in a position to be the best in the country or the best in the world unless you start at 5 years old and do it for your whole life and really have so much behind you that can get you to that point. I think most other sports aren't like that. You can, kind of do multiple sports, hop in. Of course, it like helps to specialize in stuff, but it's like you just don't see people, like, nobody's coming into wrestling and competing at a high level later in their life. It just doesn't happen. It's so competitive. And I think that if you look at, I think a couple things are interesting. One, wrestling has the smallest percentage of high school athletes who are then able to transition to competing at a college level, right? So it's like, I want to say like 1%, it's 1% or less, something like that. Whereas if you look at basketball, football, baseball, it's all like above, it's like 2, 3, 5% of these athletes are able to even compete at a college level. And so when you look at the difference between, let's say, like a good high school wrestler, a state champion high school wrestler, to like a guy who's just on a college team, it's so vast. Mm-hmm. And then you look at a guy who's on a college team to a guy who's a starter, another gap. Guy who's a starter to a guy who's All-American, another gap. Guy who's All-American to the guy who's a national champion, it's like, can be like a huge disparity. And then you start getting into guys who are like multiple-time national champions that are doing this over and over at a young age, and then year in, year out, like staples of the sport. It's so incredible, like the dedication it takes and how like different the level is, right? Like and I'm not an expert in other sports, but I would just be hard pressed. It'd be hard pressed to like make me believe that they're as competitive. Just the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. Depends on the sport, I would say too. Like, I feel like that what you said could apply to like any sport though, like the gap. But I would say, like, I don't know wrestling well enough to judge like how large the disparity is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are obviously outliers in every sport, but I just feel like, first off, what is in wrestling, there's no limit. There's no like barrier to entry on like basically what I'm saying is to like get to the NBA or get to the NFL, you got to be like a freak. You're going to have to be 240 pounds, 6'5", like a monster. And so, that automatically eliminates like 90% of the population.
Right.
Maybe probably more, probably 99% of the population are eliminated. So now you have wrestling where we have a 125 pound weight class. We have weight classes from 125 to 285. So yeah, there are probably more people competing in other sports, but you're just not going to be able to get to a high level of wrestling. You're not going to be competitive at a high level unless you're like insanely dedicated from 5 years old until, the time you're in college.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm pretty sure most of these guys who are like athletic freaks that just are blessed genetically, you take a dude who's 6'5", 250 pounds and runs a 4.3, he's going to be good. He's going to be able to do it. And like that doesn't really take dedication. It doesn't take commitment. It's just what you're blessed with. And I'm not saying these guys don't work hard, because obviously any of the guys that are like that and work hard are completely, blowing people out of the water. Like you take Micah, for example. Micah gets after it. Like he's working, he's gifted and very blessed, but he works really hard too. I just think like in wrestling, you're not even going to be in the same planet if you're not like insanely dedicated, just because of the competitiveness and like you could literally give me like an amazing athlete, start them wrestling in the 8th grade. They're not doing anything in college. Like maybe the All-American once or twice. Like even like the best athletes in the NFL, the NBA, start them later, start them later in life. They're not sniffing an NCAA title. It's not going to happen.
The best showcase for that we've seen in recent years is now MMA.
Yeah,
because the wrestlers have just been dominating, and the people that are trying to learn wrestling just can't. Like it's impossible. They can learn the basics that would maybe lead them to a state placer or potentially All-American years down the line, but no one can get even close to the guys, the Georgians, the Dagestani guys, us. Like no one can get even close to that because the years are there. And that, I think that's the best showcase of what you're saying is you just, with striking, you've shown it, other people have shown it, you could pick it up in a couple of years and be pretty solid at it.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going to go box professionally, but we're seeing guys do that now too. But
I mean, I think you could absolutely box professionally.
I mean, like with the top guys.
I think that guys like honestly, I don't think it's as competitive. Genuinely.
Yeah, I just mean like the guys that have done it haven't had too much success with it. But with wrestling, you need a baseline of 10 years, and then you're starting to really pick it up.
Right. I think a really interesting point that you made is like how you can pick up striking rather quickly, and like Jake is a really great example of that. Like if you really think about it, he's been boxing for what, like 5 years? Mm-hmm. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of time. Right. I had the thought, and it has to do with like that whole come up where there's always going to be a guy that like wants to go box, like said influencer, like 2 influencers are going to go against each other. Like imagine someone like random influencer, whatchamacallit, insert any YouTuber, and then Mr. says Beast. Like, yeah, Mr. Beast. Like he goes, yeah, I just didn't want to say it.
That's why you couldn't think of anybody.
Imagine he goes like, I'm going to wrestle Anthony Cassar. Mm-hmm. Like he's going to get destroyed, and it doesn't matter how long he trains, how hard he trains. Like he just doesn't have the experience behind him.
Yeah, I think bottom line is just wrestling is the hardest thing to learn. Yeah. Again, you can take a freak athlete, take the most athletic guy you've ever seen, start them wrestling in high school, they're not going to be competitive. It's like you have to know how to wrestle. That's why you see guys all the time who, maybe don't look like insanely, their physique isn't crazy. They're not like, you walk up to them on the street and there's like, this is just a regular guy, but they're top 1% of the world, world-class athletes. And I think like that competitiveness is unique to wrestling. And I'm not, again, I've said that I'm not an expert in these other sports, but I've watched enough other sports and I've watched enough wrestling, and I feel like I'm definitely biased, but I don't think that there's a sport that takes more to be successful or that's more competitive. Like, you're not going to convince me of that.
Yeah. I mean, we even talked about making weight either, which
like, come on,
it's a whole nother thing.
Take one of these, take any of these guys that are competing professionally in their sport and say, all right, drop 20 pounds, and then you got to go out and do what you do.
2 hours later.
It's not happening, man. Like, it takes a different mindset to be a high level wrestler, and that's, again, you mentioned this already, but the best example is MMA. Take a perfect example. Francis Ngannou went out and he boxed the best heavyweight in the world, Tyson Fury, and lost a controversial decision. I get it. Yeah, next fight he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. Not a great matchup, but he did take the consensus best heavyweight of all time, dropped him, and went the full fight with him.
Most people thought he won.
Yeah, it's crazy. You put that dude against a heavyweight. I'm not even gonna say the best heavyweight. Put him against an average NCAA heavyweight right now. Mm-hmm. He will get mopped.
Yeah,
he's like gonna get killed.
Yeah,
and that, I'm talking an average NCAA heavyweight. You put him against Greg, like Greg's gonna destroy him, right? Like, and it's levels from there. Like it's just not the same, right? So I don't believe that. I hope that wrestling continues to build itself and get into that mainstream, and everybody knows wrestling is a tough sport, but you really have no comprehension or idea how much it takes unless you've actually done it and been in it. And the NCAA is a testament to that. There's guys that have trained their whole lives since the time they were 5 years old, probably missed holidays, missed meals, this and that, and then they go get pinned by Aaron Brooks in the first period. It's like, it's insane. It's so competitive.
Let's move on to another thing that you made me think of with one of your other tweets, and how they could do, and if the UFC kind of did like a team style idea, which would be cool. So like you were saying, like there should be points, like decisions 3, split decisions 3, unanimous is 4, knockouts 5. But I think that this is the thing that they would have to do. It would have to be countries against each other.
That would be crazy.
Like, imagine the United States against Russia.
World Cup.
Yeah, World Cup, MMA World Cup.
Yeah,
that'd be
crazy.
That'd be crazy. It'd be so fun. I think you can do it. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think there are a couple ways to do it. First off, the reasoning behind it. The biggest, I guess this year it wasn't really that big, but generally some of the biggest storylines in wrestling come out of like team versus team. Penn State, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, Iowa, Oklahoma State. Like these universities that have this fan base and culture, and it creates this like tribal warfare type environment where now it's my team versus your team. Maybe I like one of these guys on this other team, but I don't give a crap because I want my team to win. Mm-hmm. And so it creates like more just interesting storylines. And then, from there, I guess transitioning that idea into MMA, where MMA is like literally the most tribal, primal sport that you can get. Mm-hmm. And how do you like get people to really get behind it? I get people love MMA and fans will watch for entertainment, but imagine if there was fan bases of teams the way there are in the NFL or the NBA, MLB. Like, think New York Yankees versus Boston Red Sox, but these guys are going to fight each other. Like, that would be awesome, right?
It'd be insane.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it would be so fun.
Yeah, you start with gyms.
Yeah.
And that's like your team.
Yeah.
You have 5 guys or whatever, and that's like on a consistent basis. And then once a year or once every couple of years, you do a World Cup, and it's freaking country versus country.
I think that the way you'd have to do it, I originally, so I liked what Ronan had to say about countries and teams and stuff. I think that on a year-to-year basis, what you would have to do is just do a draft where you would just have 10 teams, right, or whatever, however many is decided, and there's a draft. So like the UFC roster, let's say they pick the top 300 guys that are like the most exciting or whatever. And then they pick 10 teams, and then it's like 30 guys a team. I'm just making the numbers easy. It could be they pick the top 100 guys, most interesting guys, and it's like then there's a draft, and those you get teams of 10 teams of 10 or something, and then they have to like duel each other, a few times throughout the year. I don't know. It's probably never going to happen. It's just I think it would be fun. And then every 4 years, it's like you divide the team up country to country, like the way soccer does it, right? Like I forget what the leagues are called, but it's like these guys play against each other, this and that, blah blah blah, and then freaking World Cup.
Yeah,
bro, it would be so fun. Because you're not going to get. You're probably the thing with the gyms is it's going to be ATT. It's like gyms aren't going to be able to compete with ATT. There's too many good guys that go to ATT. And there's too many guys that go to like small gyms where there's 3 of them,
Yeah, but if you limit it to 5 guys, and like maybe a small gym like us, we have 5, like we can pick 5 out of 10 guys.
Yeah.
And then ATT Florida picks 5 out of 200 guys. So it's still the same 5 guys, but it's just coming from a larger pool.
Yeah.
I think you can make it work.
I think that the hard part is like in the NFL, there's 32 teams.
Yeah.
Right. So if you were to try to do that, you couldn't get all the best fighters encompassed in 30 teams. There would have to be more, just because there's so many different gyms, right? So it makes more sense for guys to like. I would love it if it was just like each gym, but I think realistically for the sport, obviously everything we're talking about is so hypothetical. It's never going to happen.
Never know.
Maybe
he'll see this.
Well,
that'd be great.
That's the thing that I was thinking of like how it could potentially happen.
Yeah.
And the one thing with the UFC does a great job overall. The one thing that does suck is sometimes they put on these fight nights and they're awful. Like I do not like. No one knows anybody.
Don't tell Zach that.
But besides Zach, and
Zach loves it.
Very few people. That would make it so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you had
Your
two teams, like go against each other on a random Saturday night, like then somebody has like
the fight night should all be team based,
right,
or like some team component.
Well,
That'd
they kind of did this already with Ultimate Fighter. So
I thought about that too.
So it's not like too far fetched.
It's not too far fetched. It's just that if you could do like Ultimate Fighter fights aren't professional fights. And the drama is like these guys all living in the house together. So imagine if it was like real professionals. The drama,
so much better. The blueprint's there, but it would be way more hype.
Way more, right? And imagine there's 5 fights. It goes 2-2, championship belts on the line, and the team whatever title's on the line, and it's like one guy versus the next dude. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of logistics in play, and it would be hard to make the teams maybe competitive. But again, like
Jiu-Jitsu does it too. You did that.
Oh, I did. Yeah. That's right. What was it called? It was called the Fight Pass Invitational. Yeah, they did a team thing.
Yeah.
So go over what worked out. What did that entail?
So that was just 4 or 5 guys from wherever all came together, formed a team, and this was interesting rules. So basically, it was 8-minute bouts. If you submitted the guy, you stayed in. Yeah. And then the next guy from their team would come out.
Same rules. Let's do the same rules.
So like if it went 8 full minutes, then both you guys were out and 2 new guys came in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like if you submitted, you basically your team had to get a submission to win.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. I like competing in it.
They could never do that in MMA, dude.
Yeah, it would never get sanctioned, but you still could there's still a blueprint for some type of 5v5
it's out there,
team battle. Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it would be fun. I think too it would just allow more competitions, right? Like guys would just want to fight more probably.
Yeah, and it makes it more fun for the guys. Like it's always more fun for us to try to win.
Definitely.
Nationals together.
Imagine like you guys have both been back in the locker room. Imagine if it's like your team in your locker room and you're like, all right, but like it's like that energy is different. It's different than being by yourself.
Way different.
Yeah. So I love that team energy. Like, you got a duel against Iowa, right? There's 15,000 people outside. You're back in the locker room with you and your boys, and you're all about to go friggin' spank their booties. And then imagine like that for a fight. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
That would be interesting. So I think the like short-term play that the like UFC could do, obviously we're deep in the hypothetical woods, but the jiu-jitsu thing is really interesting because they could put together 10 teams of jiu-jitsu guys and like they made power slap like
Yeah, they already do that with jiu-jitsu all the
Yeah.
time. I think that for fighting, maybe the first step, the easiest way to do it is just be like do a draft. You have 10 teams, right? And you get 10 fighters each, and if you don't get drafted, you're just a free agent. You can still fight all the time, and you still fight on the undercards or whatever, but all the best guys are going to get drafted. That's like do it like the Live Tour.
Yeah.
You don't know Live Tour. So Live Tour is golf, and it's like they basically designated like 6 or 8 teams or whatever, and had team captains, and then they just have like teams of golfers, and they go compete against each other. So there's a golf at a golf tournament. There's the individual win, obviously, but then like how high you place adds to the team score, and there's a team champion at the end of the year, and they all get paid based on how well they do at tournaments. So like, let's say you win the tournament as an individual, you get like $1 million, and then let's say your team wins, you guys split like $3 million between the 5 of you or whatever. So now you get that extra team bonus, and if you take second, you get like $2 million to split between you.
Cool.
So you get the original like individual prize, but then you want your teammates to do well because then you split that team prize, which is a bigger prize, and then you take a cut of that.
Got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that you could definitely do something like that with like a team championship. And if your team win, like have guys draft, however many fighters. And then, you don't have to have guys fight, like, I don't know, make them fight like 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It doesn't have to be like an insane number, but
yeah. And you have 10 guys, so you have alternates and stuff. It's not like
the guys that didn't get drafted or backups.
And You can bull a guy in. There's an injury. You sub a guy in. He's still on your team. That's who you picked. And I don't know. I think that it would be super fun. And as a fan, it's just clear like people follow team sports.
Yeah.
They want to root for a team.
Yeah.
MMA has done a good job in the UFC specifically of highlighting individuals, but I just believe that only goes so far. The team component is massive, and that's when bigger players and endorsements and sponsorships comes in. It's just more money. Like, I think overall
fans can only attach themselves to one person like so much,
and that guy's gonna retire.
Yeah, and that's why they have like it's spread out between like 5 or 6 guys that they love.
Yeah,
which is a team.
Yeah, exactly. and even like so, a good example would be, let's say, let me think of a good example. So this year, Denver Broncos had Russell Wilson, right? He was a quarterback. He just got traded to the Steelers or whatever released, and the Steelers picked him up. The Broncos fans aren't now Steelers fans. Like, they're still the Broncos fans. So, like, wherever guys go, it's almost, people can, maybe some people will jump ship. Like, when Brady went to Tampa, a lot of people became fans of Tampa. But that's a unique situation. For most part, people are going to, like, root for the team, the program. And then it's like they're just more invested, right? And they can be way more invested on a regular basis with, okay, this team's doing however many fights a year. Like, I'm going to watch just because these guys are on the team. I'm not just going to watch, let's say, like 3 Bo Nickal fights a year. I'm going to watch 8 fights now because this team I follow all the guys.
Yeah. I was thinking more into like how much that would evolutionize the sport too, because just in general, like MMA fighters are not friends with each other. Like, it's very rare to like see like the Aljo and Marab connection, like being around the same weight and like being friends and learning from each other. I think that would really push the sport ahead too, as far as like being able to talk to, a guy who's been doing jiu-jitsu his entire life, a guy who's been wrestling his entire life, like someone that's been striking. Like,
it would
really
open it up
change
for
that.
sure. Like, let's say you have a team of, however many guys, and like this dude trains in LA, and this dude trains in Albuquerque, and this dude trains in Denver. And it's like, now people will probably be more open to like trading knowledge and cross training with each other and stuff like that, where it's gonna make everybody better.
Yeah,
right. Like, it would be, let's say somebody's the captain and they draft like me, and they draft Max Holloway, and then they draft John Jones, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be picking these guys' brains. Like, let's like, I'm trying to win, so let's all work together.
Whereas
you guys want to come learn wrestling? Let's go. Like, that type of thing.
Or it usually doesn't happen.
No, it's just in your gym.
Yeah.
Like any guy in the gym, it's like you're gonna hook him up and take care of him. But some people are more closed minded. I think that they don't want to work with anybody. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
It would be entertaining as heck.
Yeah, I would freaking watch.
Yeah.
Oh.
They should just like keep a tally, red corner versus blue corner. That's like the simplest.
Wow.
That's the simplest way to do it now. Like there doesn't even have to be, but it's like, I wonder who's going to win, red corner or blue corner. You can put bets on it.
Better.
Yeah. Who has more victories on UFC 300, red corner or blue corner?
Wow.
Right?
That was the first teams.
Yeah.
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 Speaking of, we got to talk about the bite bonus on the podcast. Just
Dude. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Crazy.
one of the most insane.
I didn't watch the
things.
fight. I just saw the tattoo.
I found the clip of like how
Oh,
he
yeah.
was standing.
I would love to see this because I have no idea how it goes. Wait. Let's read this quote. If you get frustrated one on the fight, there are plenty of ways to do it, but the worst thing you can do is bite your opponent. Now you get cut and lose the biggest opportunity of your life. All right, let's see this clip. Oh, dude, that's a bad bite.
His mouthpiece was obviously out.
No, look, I don't know. Let's see. I need the clip of the bite. I need it. Oh, he's behind him.
Oh, he looks like an animal.
Why is he doing that?
He really latched onto him.
What a psycho.
So that was the part that was interesting because you guys were saying at practice the other day, like, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a weird. Like,
It would be hard to bite somebody with a mouthpiece in, but he's like really getting in there. He's like shaking his head like, nah.
What?
He was getting beat up, right?
I didn't watch the fight either, so I'm not 100% sure. But
I bet Dan will stop saying we're looking for young and hungry fighters.
Oh, interesting.
Dude, that's a bad bite,
He
bro.
had to have had his mouthpiece.
So no, you see how the bottom, or the top right here is where his bottom teeth were, and the bottom is where his top teeth were. So it's like less. It's way less. You see, like the bottom has all those teeth indentations, and the top.
You mean here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the top, right?
So the way he was facing, that would have been his bottom teeth.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And
Then,
the bottom was his top teeth because he was
Yeah.
facing the other way,
that makes more sense.
and it's not as defined.
dude, he bit hard.
Yeah, he bit the shit out of that guy.
That's so crazy.
Yo, he almost took I feel like if he would have really tried harder, he could have took a chunk out of that dude's arm.
Yeah, if he was really would have spit the mouthpiece out first.
Oh, if you just for real.
How do you even? I just don't understand how in that positioning. Like,
Have you ever been bit in a match?
Yeah,
I've been bit many
a few
times.
times. Yeah,
when I was a kid.
probably like way too many times. Yeah,
Way too many.
when you're young.
I got bit once. This was like the worst bite I got. I had a kid in an overhead cradle, and the kid was just like not a good wrestler, being dirty, like
Yeah, that's always who it is.
just like a little like weird kid. And I overhead cradled him, and I had him pinned on his back, and his head was like here, and all of a sudden I just felt this like hard ass bite on my ribs, like on my rib cage. And I was like, what the? And I just and like I just squeezed the kid as hard as I could, and the ref called the pin. And then I like pulled him off me, and he like went to stand up, and I just mushed his face like so hard. I was like so pissed. I was like, boom, and like slammed his head on the ground. And the ref was like, whoa, like freaking out. And I was like, dude, look. And I pulled my singlet up, and I just had this huge, it looked like that, like on my rib, this huge bite mark. And the ref was like, what is going on? Just like, everybody relax. I was like gonna kill the
guys
kid.
were 6.
My dad was we were in 8th grade.
Oh, that's way too
so
old.
yeah, that's way too old.
Yeah.
Jeez.
My dad was so pissed at me because he didn't know. Like he just saw me pin the kid, and then nobody could see because his head was tucked into my rib. And then I just mushed his face, and like he was like, boom. And my dad was like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, you kidding me? And he was still pissed. My dad was like, get off the mat, like yelling at me and stuff. I'm like, Dad, this guy bit the crap out of me. It wasn't until like after the moment calmed down that he was like,
I thought
right,
he would have
right.
been cool with it after that.
Well, it was like he was just mad at me, and like he didn't really even get to like, figure out what happened.
Yeah, because it probably looked so bad.
It looked
without
so
knowing,
bad,
so he
and
was
everybody
like,
was booing and
Yeah.
stuff because I was obviously way better than the kid. But then after the match cooled down, I was like, he was like, what happened?
Yeah.
I'm like, the kid freaking tried to take a chunk out of me, out of my serratus. And then my dad was like, all right, yeah, that's weird. He's like, relax though, it's not that big a deal.
No, I just remember like being way younger and just feeling like a little freaking nip here and there. Like, whoa.
Yeah. I had a kid bite me once that had braces.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I cross-face cradled him, and I was like pulling him back, and he was just, I didn't even really notice until after the match, and then I just looked at my arm, and there was teeth and just brace indents, and actually like his braces got stuck in my skin, like it was bleeding a little bit. I was like, oh, that's gross. I shouldn't bite people.
Jeez.
Yeah, no good.
Ooh.
No good. Nobody wins when somebody gets bit.
And that kid made his first UFC appearance and then got taken off the roster the very next
Same
day.
guy. It
Same
might honestly
guy.
could have been, man.
That's a crazy move.
The notorious biting fighter.
What do you do after that? Like,
He's done. He got cut.
does you keep fighting in general? Like,
No. You go work at like a Staples or like a something.
like maybe like a restaurant or something
Yeah, you go like wait tables.
where you're allowed to buy stuff.
Yeah, I guess. Still shouldn't as a waiter. Like. Oh man. Yeah, I think he's done. He's done.
Well, do you wear a mouth guard when you wrestle typically?
Some people do, some people
Okay.
don't. I never did.
Okay. So that would be even worse.
Yeah, bro, you can bite people hard, man. Haven't seen a good bite in a while.
No,
Yeah.
kind of refreshing.
It is. It is. It's good for the sport. Yeah.
Well, that part's the $50,000 was the most insane thing.
Gave him
about
50
that.
grand?
Yeah.
Dude, bro.
The guy who lost?
No, Dana gave the guy 50 grand that
Got bit.
Got bit.
I hope my
Wow.
bite me, bro.
So worth it.
Yeah, I'll take 50 racks.
Next fight, I'm like,
Come on, buddy. Come on.
is that coconut oil?
Take a chomp. Take a chomp. Chomp on it. Oh man.
That's wild.
UFC in Atlantic City this weekend. Tony,
That's dope.
are you bringing out the wife beater and jean shorts and Tims for this weekend?
He's never worn jean shorts ever. All
Never.
right, just so you know.
Really?
Yeah, that's like
That's not a New Jersey thing, bro.
No.
They wear pants in the summer,
Yeah. We were.
or at least a tracksuit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We cover up as much as possible until we can cover up nothing. Extremes.
Speedo or tracksuit.
No, that's dope. I love AC. That's where I won my state title, and it's a dope place to compete at.
It's an interesting venue for
What's the venue?
UFC event. Just being in Atlantic City in
They've
general.
done fights in
in
Atlantic
the
City.
Vegas of the East.
I know you're new to this, but they've done many fights in Atlantic City.
Really?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, I didn't go to. No, I went to Philly.
Definitely not the first one.
No, they've done many. Yeah.
Where is it at, though? What's the venue? Is it like
I
a
looked it
arena?
up.
I like when Ronan figures something out and thinks it's brand new. He's like, yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, oh, yeah, it's happened like a dozen times. It's like a little kid, you know? When they figure like out, like they're like, have you ever tried?
Boardwalk Hall.
Yeah.
Dang, bro, same place.
Wow, that's great.
That's crazy. Boardwalk Hall. I have to go to that.
Reminiscent. You're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
Boardwalk Hall.
Boardwalk Hall.
Yeah, I got stories from that weekend. Most of my family almost didn't make it to the finals, but they came through.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's really cool, actually.
Bad traffic or?
Who's the main event? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Who's the main event?
I think it's Joaquin Buckley. It's not actually. It's Blanchfield against.
Oh man, and Firo.
Yeah.
That's a good fight.
Who cares?
Blanchfield's big time. She's gonna smash this girl. I hope so, at least, because I got a lot of her cards. she's the only other person I collect besides myself.
Really?
Well, I collect a little bit of Ilya, but I collect a lot more of Aaron because she's a rookie too.
You like her?
Yeah, bro, she's a beast. She's really good.
12-1.
She knocked out Tiago Santos.
It's Talia Santos.
Yeah.
Thiago
I
Santos.
was looking at that too. Like how
She bumped up to men's heavyweight, knocked him out.
from 125 to 205.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Who else is fighting?
So the big fights on the card are Chris Weidman's fighting Bruno Silva,
Oh, that's
nice.
cool.
That's a good
He's
fight.
fighting AC.
and then Vince Luque against Joaquin Buckley.
Good fight.
That's a good fight.
Cool.
A couple geezer battles.
Who else is a geezer?
I mean, Bruno
Besides-
Silva's 23-10, so I'm thinking he's no spring chicken. Joaquin Buckley's not that old, I guess. He's 29. And Vince Luque, I thought was way older. He's only 32.
Huh.
Thought he was way older. Chris Weidman, 39.
39.
I'd like to see him get a win.
Yeah, definitely get this dub.
A lot of injuries for him too.
Yeah.
For the career. I bet I wouldn't venture to guess is one of his last fights. If this isn't.
Yeah, hopefully he gets a dub.
Yeah.
Right out on the sunset and AC, baby.
Home crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be so pro Weidman.
Yeah.
He has a great walkout song too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is it?
Bruce Springsteen.
Oh,
Yeah, Born in the
Good old
USA.
USA boy.
Born in the USA. When he fought Anderson Silva, bro, both those
Dude.
times, that was awesome.
This is still my boy.
No, that's a different fight though.
I know.
That was when he fought
That
Yoel.
just broke my heart.
And he was like, Dad,
Yeah.
come on. Oh, man. Everybody was like, oh, I was not ready for it. But I like that he did that.
Yeah.
It's ride or die.
Yeah.
seemed like a nice guy when you talk to him.
Oh, he's super nice.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
What?
Was in that interview when you were talking to Chris Weidman. He's like, so what do you think that Trayshawn Gore is going to bring to the table?
No, it was Jamie Pickett.
Jamie Pickett. And you go, I don't know. You train with him.
Yeah, he did. He went up to. Do you know that? Do you know about that? Oh, bro. So before my first UFC fight with Jamie Pickett, I did like a ESPN thing with DC and Weidman, and they were kind of asking me questions, and Weidman was like, "Yeah, so like with Jamie Pickett, what's your game plan? What do you think you should be ready for? What you're doing?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know, man. You trained with him for this fight, so what do you think?" And he was like, wasn't ready for it. But I just saw a picture that like Jamie Pickett went up to his gym and trained to get ready for me.
That's funny.
I wasn't mad at him or anything, but I'm just like,
you tell me.
I'm like, yeah. And everybody was like, oh,
That's
he was
funny.
like, that's fair. That's fair. He didn't know what to say after that. He was like trying, and then I was basically like, he basically was like, he's in it for a long night. And I was like, that's all I needed to know.
He's off the roster now.
Don't say another word. It's all good.
Happens.
Yeah.
Happens.
That's what happens when you sign to fight me and don't even know who I am.
Yeah. Let's get deep here.
Let's do it.
Kind of along the same lines, but why do you think people today are more self-conscious than ever?
I don't know. Why do you think they're more self-conscious than ever?
Well, my opinion on it was
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Let's hear it.
I think that everything's advertised nowadays. Like it's very easy to look at someone else's life and like want that for yourself. And if you don't achieve, like you look at Jake Paul and you're like, well, I'll never achieve that. So like,
Right.
why should I even try? And I think that people get really in their head about that like that's normal, but in reality, it's the farthest thing from it. Like
Interesting.
being able to train for 5 years and then fight Mike Tyson is not something that should be achievable, but it is.
Right.
So I think it has to play a lot with like social media and just being able to see so much of like all these different other people succeeding, and then you're on your couch eating potato chips. So I think people get self-conscious about like not being able to get outside that box because it's looks so overwhelming.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that being self-conscious, probably is a fear-based mindset, and feeling afraid of maybe not being accepted, or what maybe you had some trauma as a kid that made you feel like people don't really like you for whatever reason, or you're just not good at certain things, and you kind of make agreements in your head about yourself that more than likely aren't true. And I think all of what you said goes into play, factors in where on social media or wherever we're seeing our information, it's all kind of idealized, whether that's an advertisement, a commercial, or a person's life. It's all just snapshots of an idealized kind of scenario. And in reality, I think as a human, everybody's kind of going through life and experiencing very similar things. I think that your struggles, my struggles, Tony's, anybody's are more similar and more relatable than what we actually realize. But yeah, the self-conscious thing, I think, I think everybody's a little bit in your mind. It's not like a bad thing. It's just like if you then let that become an agreement with yourself of, like I'm a self-conscious person. I don't put myself out there. I don't do these things. I can't, like that type of mindset. I think that's when it becomes an issue, like, because
Controls you.
yeah, it controls you. Exactly.
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing. Everyone just puts out highlight reels for the most part on social media. And so we get a sense of that being reality and then comparing someone's highlight reel with your current reality when, meanwhile, like Bo was saying, it's probably more similar to that person's reality than you think. But because you're just seeing only the positives, you become more self-conscious comparing yourself to that. Whereas, and the other side of it is putting your own content out there a lot of the time just to like prove to others that you're happy. Like Gary Vee talks about that a lot. Like, why don't you just focus on truly being happy and at peace instead of trying to show others that you're like so happy.
Yeah.
And I think everyone can do a better job of giving like a more well-rounded perspective of reality on social media, because that's, like you're saying, where it's all coming from. 50 years ago, you're in your own world. Your immediate circle, somewhat of what's going on in their lives, but you don't know what a Jake Paul is doing, and you also feel like kids feel like they know them now because they're so exposed to podcasts and Instagram and all these things that you feel like you know the person, and then you're like, but if you knew the person, you would be learning from them and getting closer to that level. But now that you feel like you know them, you feel like you should be there, but you're not getting any of really the value to like help get you there. So it's like this a never-ending circle of feeling more and more self-conscious and a lack. Whereas if you just focus on putting your head down and becoming the best that you can be and not comparing yourself to that, then you'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing I think, that just kind of popped in my head, I don't know that people are more self-conscious now than ever. Like if there's studies done that show like, hey, people are more self-conscious now than ever. I don't know of them, but I feel like people have always been dealing with this, right? Like that's why the term keeping up with the Joneses has been coined. Like people try to, keep up with whatever's going on around them, and they are always comparing themselves to other people and, trying to live life in a way that has more like external focus than internal. And so, I don't know that, like, I think maybe social media speeds that up a little bit or something, because now you don't have to just keep up with the Joneses down the block. You got to keep up with like a million people.
Yeah.
And, but I think that this is just like a natural human experience that is like, just basically comes down to like comparing yourself and your situation to another person and thinking of it as better or worse, when in reality, that other person, the grass isn't always greener, and there's problems no matter what, and there's things to figure out and do better no matter what, no matter whether you're a millionaire or have no money, no matter whether you live in like a mansion or you live in an apartment. Like everybody has to like kind of deal with similar things. And I feel like the focus should be not so much on how do I feel all the time, and like, do I feel okay? Do I feel okay? Do I feel okay? Like when this stuff is just shoved in our face of like how we feel all the time, I think that's actually making the problem worse. We should really just be focused on like moving forward and doing better and just like living life as a normal person. I don't think most people would feel self-conscious and insecure and have anxiety if it wasn't always like shoved in their face. Like, are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling self-conscious?
Like, well, now I am.
Yeah, well, now kind of like, I guess now that you think about it, like how often, I guess I was talking about this with my wife the other day, but if you go through a normal day, like people say like, I want to be happy, right? When you go through a normal day, how often are you actually happy?
Just a few moments.
Yeah, just a few moments.
Yeah.
And that's normal. Like, but we don't need to be checking in with ourselves all the time and asking ourselves how we feel, because feelings are fleeting, and your feeling isn't actually, they're not always accurate, because we can have an emotional response to a situation, and then 10 minutes later after we cool down, feel very differently about it. Right. So I don't think it's important to always like check in with your feelings. It's more important to just like know the path that you want to stay on and stick to that. And maybe occasionally check in and like make sure that, you know, you're where you want to be in life. And like one thing that Bonnie always used to ask us that I love this question is like, is everything in your life right now the way you want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of go from there. And if you're like, yeah, it's like, well, great. And if the answer is no, like, I don't like this coworker that I work with, it's bothering me. And then it's like, okay, now we can figure that problem out.
Yeah.
But I think that if people just, instead of trying to figure out like, oh, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel insecure? Why do I feel that? It's like, well, what in my life is like pressing right now that's not the way I want it to be? Okay, now that's a problem. Now let's focus on that.
Yeah.
Rather than focus on like, how can I change how I feel? You know, because you're not going to. It's just everybody experiences feelings and emotions.
Yeah. It's a much more productive question.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it back to a point that you made, Tony, with something that Gary Vee said about like how don't show that you're happy, just be happy. Have you ever been on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
A couple times.
So there are two very different sides to LinkedIn. It's like the actual like information that people want to hear, and then it's people posting like about their jobs, like on how like I am or how they're so grateful, the blah blah. And it's the same freaking thing like over and over. Like I'm a real estate investor. Like, oh, I'm like X millionaire. It just feels that people are continuing to compete against one another in that. And I made my first post today because I got some other things in the works, but basically just when I posted, I thought to myself, why on earth did I just like do that? Almost just like talk about, you know, my job and stuff. Like, and it's not to brag. It's just, you know, that's how society is. You need to show what you do in order to, especially in the space that we're in, you need to show what you're doing in order to expand
Right.
things like that. And I just thought it was very interesting what you said, because I feel that people that post some of the stuff on there, they're talking about this like X job and they're not actually happy about it, but they want to they want people to perceive that they are happy about X job, which I thought was really interesting.
That is interesting.
Like half of it is for a purpose. The other half is just to like hype up and brag.
Just to be like
a look at me.
Yeah. And that can go for any platform
Yeah.
nowadays. I don't want to just like crap on LinkedIn, but I just thought that was so interesting on that. There's like people such as who's the other guy on Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, actually giving knowledgeable information. And then there's X person that you went to high school with that you connected on LinkedIn for some weird reason.
Right.
They're talking about X job that they got in California that's going to make like working for some random tech company.
Interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
It was really interesting in that competitive field, because I always reading it was trying to be like everyone needs to be better than like the next person, which I thought then back to Instagram and TikTok and how that really relates on those social platforms as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Bilzerian is a very great example of that.
I love when, you know, talking about your LinkedIn example, when people are like, they make like a big post. It's like grateful and honored and this and that to be receiving this and that. And it's like, relax. Let's all cool it a little bit. And I think that at the same time, on the other end of the coin, sometimes people are just happy and excited about certain things. So it's like, that should be promoted. Like I like when people are excited about a certain thing, but it's also sometimes definitely can be a bit much. And that's why I just don't have that many friends.
Yeah.
I think that you trick yourself into not trick yourself, but at some point in your life, you just realize like, I don't need like that many friends. You know, maybe as a kid, like you want friends, like that's like such a big part of childhood and relationships and stuff. And you always want more friends and it's exciting to make a new friend. And now I feel like I'm not looking to make a new friend at all. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm good to go.
You also realize how much it takes to maintain
So much.
like a super close friendship. You really can have like 3 to 5 that are like ride or die, that you can put the amount of effort and energy that it takes. So like, and then life gets busy, and so like you realize you can only like realistically do that unless you're just like not working.
Or I was gonna say unless you're a girl.
Yeah, girls.
If you're a girl,
yeah, they can multitask better.
They're better at that social stuff,
Yeah.
like just keeping up with each other and stuff. Like Maddie and Julie's the
There's
same
so many
way.
friends.
Like they just keep up with their friends.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. You know, they have a group message with 20 of them.
Yeah, and it's a group of friends from each period of your life.
Yeah.
And it maintains.
It's unbelievable.
It's like for us, if we move on from high school, it's like at some point those are no longer our friends.
No.
But girls, they just maintain the group somehow.
Yeah. Like I kept 2 friends from high school, and we really don't talk that much.
Yeah, out of like 20.
Yeah. I mean, I had 6,000 kids in my school.
Yeah.
And I still communicate with 2 of them. Like that's it. But yeah, I feel like that's just the way boys and girls are wired. They're just different. But that's another topic.
It's another rabbit hole.
Yeah, you can add
Take
that one to your list. Why are boys and girls different? I'm gonna say, well, the boy parts look like this, and the girl parts. Oh man,
It's not the way to happiness. Happiness is the way.
bada bing, bada boom. Perception is reality. See y'all.
Justin, get well soon.